Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 85 of the Guardian Project podcast. I'm your host, Andy. And Coyle, do you know what character from Magic should have been cast in the hit show Sex in the City?
No, I do not.
It's Elrond, because he's the god of cosmos. Coyle doesn't watch Sex in the City.
But it makes sense to how you explained it to me about 2 minutes ago.
If you don't watch that show, they drink a lot of cosmos. I was really excited. I thought that was the funniest joke. And I was like, wait, play to your audience. We're not probably all...
Someone out there is going to appreciate it.
If you watch Sex in the City, tweet at me with, I am the god of cosmos. That's a long hashtag.
It's a long one. And I'm your other host, Mike Coyle. And you know, the creatures that give other creatures of the same type bonuses are called lords. And I always wondered, like, lords and ladies, where are the ladies? Well, all the other cards in the deck are the ladies, because you play your lords and then you lay these cards next to it and you go and try to win.
Please listen carefully.
I thought you were going to go into like a lord like song or something.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
You'll never
Lord?
be royals.
Yeah, and we'll never be royals. But we have nobles in Magic.
That's true. We now have nobles. We've had nobles? New nobles? Old nobles?
No, nobles were new.
Nobles are new. And then other cards.
New noble.
New nobles.
You know noble.
Nobles.
New noble.
You nobles.
This is the new noble.
You are the nobles.
This is the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering.
But mostly Commander.
So I made a new deck this past week.
Okay.
I made Gore Muldrak Amphanologist.
Mm-hmm.
Amphanologist.
Yes.
So we're playing with some Salamanders, and it has been... So we had one of our folks in our Discord play this deck, and I liked it so much, I was like, can you post your list? Because I would really like to build this. Now, I may have gone a little overboard with just Simic cards that I own, but that's kind of like the new Simic thing, right?
That's what you do.
Simic cards I own.
Simic pile.
Simic pile.
Yeah.
Does feel like that. But I got to play with a lot of cards that change creature types, like Unnatural Selection or Trickery Charm, Artificial Evolution. A lot of these are really old. They specify that you can't turn something into creature type wall, which used to have a restriction that if it was just a wall, it inherently had Defender.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you couldn't turn them into legends, because that was the thing back then.
That was a creature type. Now it's a super type.
Now it's a super type, and I've had a lot of fun playing this deck. I've only played it once, but I played against it once. And the one that I played against was forcing and fogging, like forcing combat or fogging. I'm not doing so much fog, but I did win Fall Hull Breacher, and now I've said I can say I've done it, and I don't know if I care to do it again.
Maybe one more time.
But I did at least win. As soon as it happened,
True.
I had 104 treasure, and they were like, what are you going to play out? I was like, let's just say I drop everything, because I windfalled with 51 cards in hand thanks to a forced fruition on... Yeah, it was great. So I did that, and I am continuing to sleeve decks. I think I'm now 3 decks, re-sleeved, double-sleeved into my mis-sleeves.
Nice. So you have... I'm sorry, how many more decks do you have to go?
Oh. I mean...
It sounded like a painful thought.
Well, I have at least 15.
Okay.
At least. So it's very slow because you have to unsleeve from the deck it's in, put it in a perfect fit, put it in the Misty sleeve, and that's 300. It's 300 actions. It's a lot of actions.
That's a lot of actions.
But I do get to watch a lot of Twitch streams while I do it, so that's really cool.
That's
and
nice.
catch up on podcasts and
That's
stuff,
always
because
nice.
you're doing it for an hour anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just picked up a collection of some old cards.
Yes, picked up an old collection from a mutual friend, family member kind of deal, and gave them fair market value for it. But there were some cool reserve list cards.
What'd
and
you
some older
get?
Cards. Got a couple copies of Alurin in this one. We have a bunch of snow stuff from Ice Age, like Snowlands, Demonic Consultation, a couple copies of that. There's some good value in there. A lot of draft chaff in there too, but maybe it'll become valuable if people like snow stuff.
Have you started putting together your list for your Commander Cube? I haven't asked you this.
No, I haven't at all, because I wanted to get notes after drafting Commander Legends, which we haven't had an opportunity to do yet.
Yeah, which we can't really do.
Right, but it'll get there eventually, right after their D&D campaign starts.
Yeah. And that has been planned for what, 4 months? Is 5 months?
Yeah, something like that.
But I did get you my backstory.
You did. You're
literally this morning.
Part of the jury review.
I am. I'm so in a D&D campaign, aside from the podcast that we're going to be in, we're all in Ravnica, and I am going to be a Rakdos puppeteer from the jury review.
That's right. So we'll know your legendary creature boss is a 1/1, and you're obviously extremely weaker than that.
Yes. Okay. This week, we are chatting about
tribal
stuff.
All tribal stuff all the time.
I mean, everybody knows what tribal is.
Everyone plays tribal. Probably.
We assume?
Yeah.
One of the creatures in one of your decks is probably part of a tribal deck.
Yeah, it most definitely is. If your creature has a creature type, it's part of a tribal deck.
Is that true?
Even if it's an eyeball.
I mean...
I am interested to see, like, what EDH Rec... Like, I know EDH Rec has their own definition of what makes a tribal commander a tribal commander. But I'm interested if they, like, would count Changeling and stuff towards that tribe. If it counts as all tribes, or does it count specifically towards Changeling? Because they do also have a category for shapeshifters on EDH Rec, so I don't exactly know how that works. But I would assume eyeball tribal can only play like 5 eyeballs, and then they have to play all changelings.
I feel like the last time I looked at eyeballs, there were only 3.
Okay.
So I think there's only 3.
Even better.
And then the rest have to be changelings.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we're talking all tribal this week. So do you want to just shift the conversation?
We certainly can.
But before we do that, we should probably tell people where they can find us if they would like to support our show.
Yes.
If you want to support us, you can head to patreon.com/guardianprojectpod and donate for any dollar amount.
Yeah, and if you're looking for any other way to support the podcast, we have, our YouTubes and our Twitches.
The YouTubes, plural.
The Twitches, whatever you're listening to the podcast on currently. If you could leave a comment, an upvote, a follow, ring that bell if you're on YouTube. So
we're throwing out generic words.
We're just throwing words at a wall and seeing what can stick. But if you could do all those things, we really appreciate the feedback. We really appreciate the following. And that's how we get all of our content out to you.
So now I was thinking in all that time of another term other than shape shift the conversation. So what if we were to evolve? No.
We could changeling into the next topic.
All right, we're just going to change the topic. All right, so we are talking about tribal decks this week. Coyle, tell us what a tribal deck is.
So a tribal deck is a deck that's built around a certain creature type. Doesn't really matter what that creature type is. You can literally build it around any type of creature, and that's considered tribal. There's a lot of common ones out there, like zombies and merfolk are probably what people think of when they think of tribal decks. Oftentimes their win condition is swing to win. Using anthems, lords, certain creatures that like giving +1/+1 counters kind of deal. But there are some other like niche tribes out there, like clerics.
They do a lot of life gain and prevention.
Yeah.
You've got merfolk that'll give unblockable or like island walk. That's really popular there. Humans have some of their humans, they give counters, and some allow you to tap other humans to exile things. So each tribe kind of has its own thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really all we're basing this on a specific creature type, and we're kind of going to go to town. And the nice thing about tribal, at least from just like the overall perspective, is if you just put all those creatures, a lot of them already synergize with each other. So you don't have to do, like, if you're not good at brewing a deck and you just jam all the humans, I have a human tribal deck, you're probably going to find they work together.
That's true.
In many, many instances. So swing to win, anthems, and lords to give +1/+1. I think one of my human decks has like 3 or 4 lords or enchantments that pump the creatures.
And then like my zombies deck, that's like literally half the deck is like lords. And anthems. Yeah.
So we we first started by looking at popular tribes, right? Based on EDHREC, right? Everybody, they have a lot of statistics, a lot of information we can look at. So we wanted to look at what the top 10 popular tribes were, but specifically what was important was that EDHREC says that decks are considered tribal if they have more than 10 creatures and at least 60% of those creatures share a type, right? Yep. So if you have at least 10 creatures and 60% of those share the dragon type, it's going to appear as a dragon tribal deck. I mean,
you could play a deck of 10 creatures where 6 of them are elves, and it'd be an elf deck, according to that statistic.
Yeah.
Or you could play a deck with 54 elves, which most people do when they play an elf deck.
54.
54 elves, exactly.
So the top 10 tribes, right? So the first 5 here, we've got dragons, elves, zombies, vampires, and goblins.
That's right.
I think I've played against all 5. 100%.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So many times.
I'm pretty sure I can say I've played against every single one of these that are on this list. The next 5 being wizards, dinosaurs, slivers, humans, and cats. I mean, even in like just our play group, I'm pretty sure I can say I've played against all of these except for maybe... Actually, I don't know if there's a dragons deck in our play group. In our like immediate in-person play group is what I mean by that.
There is, only because we lost to the creature the dragon that has, if there's 20 or more artifacts you control at the beginning of your upkeep, you just win the game.
Right. That's
so
right.
we do have one dragon deck.
That's right.
We haven't seen that one very often though, because its dragons are expensive and
extremely.
Like, expensive as in mana cost.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some expensive dragons.
If you're picking up the original Legends dragons, which, Elder Dragon Highlander was built around having a dragon as your commander, an Elder Dragon specifically. So
in specifically going a little bit into each one of these here, dragons, there's a lot of legendary creatures to choose from that can be your commander. I think some of the more popular that we've seen are like the Dragon or Scion of the Dragon. I know on our stream we've had Lathlas Dragon Queen. All of them are really fun decks. Elder Dragon Highlander is the name of this format, but also dragons are just kind of cool.
Yeah.
And, they do big things.
Right. And honestly, they have synergy together. They don't really need synergy together. They're already giant flying creatures that are going to kill your opponent.
Right. So there's a lot of lord effects, but they're not all over the place because a lot of the dragons are just huge and they can just win when you swing with like 4, 6, 7s or something. You're just like, well,
that's a lot of damage.
I guess we're just going to die.
Right. Now, on the other side of it, you have a deck like Elves, which is really low to the ground. Everything costs like no mana whatsoever. You're playing with a ton of lords that are just pumping all of your creatures. And it's really a go wide strategy until you drop a Crater Hoof on the battlefield. Then you're going tall.
Hey, I got hit by a Crater Hoof once.
Just once?
Or 10 times.
Yeah, like 10 million times. Yeah.
It feels good to do it too, though. Not going to lie. There's a lot of people that say, oh, it gets boring. Like, I keep playing Crater Hoof, but it doesn't. Trust me. I like to win with it, and I'm not mad when I get swung at with 4 30-30s because you decided to, play out 100 elves.
Play hard mode and play Endray's Forerunners instead.
The math didn't work out there because they said they had 100 elves, but then they were only 30-30s.
Well, they came out afterward.
Math is not my strong suit.
Oh, okay.
I'll be honest. Zombies.
Hey.
Number 3, you have a zombie deck. There's, like you said, there's a ton of legendary creatures to pick from with this. Especially you've got with the Esper colors, right? We added white.
Yep.
We got to see some white zombies in Amonkhet.
Yes.
Yes. There's a lot of go wide and edict effects, and there's mill strategies.
That's right. There is one creature that can do mill in zombies. I never remember his name. Laboratory Zombie. It's
definitely not Laboratory Zombie, and I'm not 100% sure if it's legendary.
It's not legendary.
I do know that it is blue and black.
It is mono blue.
It is not blue and black.
Undead Alchemist. So 4 mana zombie. It says if a zombie you control would deal damage to a player, you mill that many cards instead. And whenever a creature card is put into opponent's graveyard, you get a 2/2 black zombie.
Okay. And the nice thing is this deck also, or this tribe, usually makes 2/2 zombies, because it cares about your graveyard. So like Varina can exile cards from your graveyard to make zombies. The Scarab God can reanimate them. You know, what's funny is now that you're taking a look at least for recent top commanders, Nivanir Urborg Tyrant is making the top. Gisa and Geralf, Grim Corpseborn. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with zombies. I don't have a zombie deck, but I did keep one of each of the old zombies that we have if I ever decide to build it, because I don't want to get rid of them. They're not the cheapest cards.
No, because they're all old.
A lot of them are really old.
Yeah, they're probably not gonna reprint Zombie Master, because I don't know if they really want Swamp Walk coming back into a standard.
They got rid of the walks.
Yeah, so those ones are gonna be harder to get. So the next tribe on there is vampires, and vampires is, I would say, kind of like next to zombies, in that they care about swinging to win, go wide strategies, but they also have the life gain aspect of it that you can play into. You get to play red with vampires too. You get to dip into Mardu versus zombies. So there's some extra things you can do there, extra removal you can run and all that kind of stuff.
I used to run Edgar Markov. It got a little redundant. It's like I play a vampire, I get a vampire, buy one, get one.
Yeah,
and
that's what you do.
But I think I've only won with that deck once or twice because a board wipe just really kind of gets it. And although you're in black where you can reanimate, I don't know if there's the same resiliency as zombies.
Definitely not, because you don't have like on vampire creatures themselves the ability to reanimate like you do with zombies. And I guess with zombies, it's a lot of return to your hand and you have to recast it. With vampires, you have to play some of those instants and sorceries that allow you to do that. And sometimes it's not worth the spot.
And my Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose is where I threw all my old vampires anyway. And I always forget that it was a vampire deck originally, but everybody thinks of Veto as just life gain, but mine is like 30 vampires in it still though. Right. So it's like still vampires.
It's still vampires.
It's still
EDA Trek still counts it as a vampire.
Still counts it as a vampire. Next up, goblins. And goblins here, probably some of the most notoriously seen are Krenko Mob Boss. And if you play Historic, you've probably seen Muxus Goblin Grandee, Wart, Bogger, Anti, and Krenko Tin Street Kingpin. You have a Krenko Tin Street Kingpin deck.
I did. I did take pieces of it out. It's kind of in shambles right now, but I decided I wanted to build a Krenko deck that not everyone else built. If we do look at the Goblins page right now in EDH Rec, we see that Krenko Mob Boss, the original Krenko, is like more than 2,000 decks ahead of the next highest Goblin care one. So it's like, I didn't want to be the guy that built that. We talk about that a lot, how we don't want to build a deck that someone else did. We want to be unique sometimes. And that new Krenko was a way that I could be unique. A lot of fun, a lot of go wide strategies, sacrifice strategies and stuff actually in mono red goblins too. So that is always fun.
Yeah.
The next highest one is Wizards. Wizards is unique because it gets to utilize a lot of enter the battlefield effects. We get to play in the Grixis colors. It doesn't really go outside of Grixis very much. I'm sure there are cards out there that do. But we utilize a lot of ways to search up cards, bounce stuff, and again, enter the battlefield effects are really big when it comes to Wizards.
Yeah, I have a Castle Royal Chaser deck. We actually played that on stream for one of our $50 streams. It did not do well because we got wrecked by a Morag mono red deck twice.
Yeah.
But when I changed it up, it was actually a lot of fun. I got to play that with Tap That MTG on their stream, and I did very well. I did not win, I don't believe. I cannot remember now.
I don't.
It has been so long.
It's been.
I can go back and check.
Yeah.
I should go back and check now.
We'll have to check it.
That seems fun. But that was a lot of fun. And I think Anala, our Archmage Ritualist, is probably one of the more popular, along with Azami.
Yeah, Azami is a really cool
Lady of Scrolls.
It's unfortunate that she's only mono blue, but also easier to include in the 99 that way.
You know which one's funny? That is next in line is dinosaurs. I did not realize dinosaur decks were as popular as they were because I really only thought about Gishath and Zakama, to be honest. But Morophon is up here in this list. Marath Will of the Wild is in this list as dinosaurs. But Atla Palani and Galta Primal Hunger are two that I forgot that could utilize this.
For sure.
And I never thought Atla was going to be listed as dinos because I figured it was just giant stuff deck.
Yeah.
Which it really is.
It is.
But and you see a lot of Eldrazi, I guess, in the Atla deck.
For sure.
But I've gotten wrecked by both a Gishath and Zakama, and it feels really good every time seeing that Naya deck just trounce you.
And again, this is one of these instances where your Gishath deck is over 2,000 decks more than the next popular dinosaur deck. Obviously, free dinosaurs on the face of a card. That's going to be your dinosaur
Potentially
deck.
7 free dinosaurs.
That would be nice. Give it double strike. Get even more. Who knows? So the next one on the list is the bane of everyone's tribal existence, and that's slivers. And I'm sorry if you felt insulted by me saying that. Slivers are unique in that their effects are actually global. Almost every sliver printed is a lord in some way to give other slivers +1/+1 or flying or the ability to tap for mana. But it does say all slivers, not just slivers you control. So we've seen some very unique pods, at least at our LGSs, where people are like, hey, four-man pod slivers and just see how crazy it can get? Absolutely.
At Command Fest Chicago, when they were playing two-headed giant games and you would pair up, some of the people that were wrecking face were 2 people that paired up playing sliver decks because they pumped each other's decks. We didn't even think about that. That would have been smart. I don't have a sliver deck, and some of the slivers are very expensive. But we've all lost the slivers, and it feels not even close when you do.
Well, that's what
it's not close.
In my Morophon deck, that's the number one thing I look for is the first sliver, Sliver Hive Lord, all those kinds of things. So because they're that strong.
Right. Following slivers is humans. Human tribal. So I have a human tribal deck. My human tribal commander actually makes the top 5. So it's very excited to see that. Number 1 is Trin and Silvar, which is actually very surprising because that is a very new commander from Commander 2020.
It's the
from the Ikoria precons. So Trin and Silvar, then Jarina Kudrow. We actually see Rick Steadfast Leader up here as one of the newer cards.
Right.
Winota, Joiner of Forces, and Sigarda, Heron's Grace. Now, I play Sigarda, but I've seen Winota before do a lot of work. Now, that one has to be a combination of humans and non-humans.
Yeah.
So this is where some of these decks get really interesting with how they have to build them.
I do think that humans is the most unique in that it does seem to have the most spread out. Like there isn't, like you said, there isn't one commander that's commanding all of the decks. It's very spread out amongst a lot of different commanders.
And colors.
Oh, yeah.
We've got, I think, every color accounted for here, at least in human decks. We've got some that are Mardu. We've got Selesnya. We have Kenrith. I mean, I guess you can build that as everything.
For sure.
Right? But Saskia, you've even got 4 colors. So there's a lot happening with humans.
Yeah, definitely. And the 10th highest one on our list is cats. Cats are typically 2/2 creatures that swing to do 2 damage.
They're cats.
That's what cats do. They pump each other. Cats are very, very streamlined. There's some cats that do give like protection from dogs or protection from rats, and they have the ability to destroy enchantments or destroy artifacts when they deal damage. But really, cats are like just the baseline, just tribal deck. Cats, I'm going to swing with my cats and do cat things and make cat tokens.
I'm going to push cards off tables, doing just cat things. That's how I win. I actually just push your entire board off. I'm like, I don't know what you had anymore. I guess I win.
Just play 20 pieces of exile removal in a cat's deck to signify that. Exile. Just push it off the table.
So those are the top 10 most popular tribes according to EDHREC. So Coyle, upsides for tribal decks. So I think they're really easy to pilot. They kind of, once you get going, you get going. Some of our notes say that they're really easy to snowball. So we've seen that from my humans deck, Sigarda. Like once you get going and then you get like 3 lords out and then it's like, I don't know what to do. And Sigarda giving them hexproof is very nice. My actual commander is not a human itself, but it gives hexproof to me and humans that I control. They can be really easy to play.
For sure. And typically, except for some of these niche tribes, they do tend to be pretty affordable. When Ixalan came around, they printed tutors and lords for particular tribes like vampires, merfolk, and dinosaur that were printed at uncommon so that you could pick them up for under $1 a piece. Like some of the older lords, like from zombies and stuff, are going to be a little bit expensive. You don't necessarily have to pick them up. Like I'm looking at Cemetery Reaper. It just gives +1/+1 and the ability to create some tokens. It's a 3-mana lord that does cost like $4, but you can easily pick up like a Diregraph Captain, which is in blue-black for the same converted mana cost that has additional value on it for under 50 cents. So the affordability behind it is definitely a draw, especially to new players. And like we already said, it's easy to play. And it's just kind of fun to do tribe stuff.
So we've had a tribal night on our stream before, I believe.
Probably.
And I know it didn't happen, but I believe 2 or 3 of our decks were playing Coat of Arms.
Oh, yeah.
Which can get really crazy because sometimes, and Coat of Arms alone can be a tricky card to play because I was playing against a rat deck and I was playing the Locust God, which the Locust God is not a tribal deck. But when you do get 15 insects or locusts, whatever, they're insects, it's like tribal.
Right.
And I was running Coat of Arms, which gives each creature +1/+1 for each other creature that shares a type with it on the battlefield. But forgot that I was playing against a mono black. Like I didn't forget. I wasn't thinking that the mono black rats player was going to drop like 15 rats on the next turn.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. I mean, I had a Blasphemous Axe, so fortunately we were able to get rid of some stuff.
Sure.
But I think I had to remove the Coat of Arms, like bounce it to my hand, and then Blasphemous Axe because 13 damage wasn't killing anything at that point when everything was just like, oh, this is a 30-30. Oh, I guess Blasphemous Axe now is going to do anything.
Yeah, I know there was one game that you and I were both in where I was playing my Zerzoth deck, which I have a Coat of Arms in there, and one of our opponents was playing Ayula fairies and had 10 fairies on the board, and it's like, yeah, that's 100 flying damage right now.
The number of times that you don't think about the creature types that you're playing, and then someone plays a Coat of Arms, and you quickly scan, you're like, oh, this is a human advisor. This is a something cleric. This is okay. How many people have clerics? Count a clerics. Count a clerics, please. That's always, I like when you play Coat of Arms because everybody's got to take account for the secondary creature type because you never think about it.
And then if you're playing a Changeling and a Coat of Arms out, you can just pretty much change the text of Coat of Arms to say, this creature gets +1/+1 for every other creature on the battlefield.
Correct. Yeah. Stromkirk Captain is a vampire soldier. Didn't know it was a soldier.
Yeah.
I know it's a vampire. I knew it was a vampire. Druids, elves. There's a lot of druid subtypes here.
There are, actually.
Human soldiers, a lot of humans. I mean, if you're playing cats, I mean, it could be anything. Arabo's a cat avatar.
They have cat warriors, cat clerics.
You don't want to run that in against a Child of Alara deck.
What is the mutate?
The mutate Nethroi is a cat nightmare beast.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So how many? Can I get a count of nightmares, please?
Yeah, but also beast.
But mostly the nightmares.
Yeah, for real.
So the one issue, right? We already mentioned it. The downsides of these tribal decks is they're usually a creature-based deck.
Yep.
And so cards like a Blasphemous Act or a Wrath of God or a Damnation can kind of put you out of commission. And if you don't have card draw, sometimes it's like, good luck for you.
Yeah, and a lot of times your card draw is tied to your tribe or your creatures. I know there's tons of Kumena Merfolk decks out there, and Kumena is the one that's making you draw cards to be able to, make that new board state again. If you commit too hard to the board, you probably will lose unless you're playing a deck like Vampires or Zombies that does have the ability to recur all of those creatures back to the battlefield just because they're in the right colors, not necessarily because it is those particular tribes. So that part takes a learning curve.
Right. Absolutely.
And you are also, like we said before, mostly combat centric when it comes to tribal decks. You are tending to swing to win. So if an opponent has up, Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, Sphere of Safety, and all these Pillow Fort cards, or just fogs, let's say they're playing Angus Mackenzie, if we really want to say the worst case scenario here for you. But, if those particular strategies are easy to counter, so hopefully you have answers for those.
I played Cigar to Humans on a stream with CNC Power Hour a while ago, and I played against an Angus Mackenzie deck, and we were at the end. It was just me in that deck. And I saw the writing on the wall, and then there was the constant mists, and I was like, oh, we're done. We're done. Constant mist fogs every turn, and so does the commander. And I didn't have a way to get around it.
Yeah, a lot of people will bring one answer, but maybe not 2, 3, or 4 answers.
There, I do have some cards that don't allow people to cast spells on their turn.
Oh, there you go.
In my humans deck, and obviously we'll get into some of our specific decks and what we think makes them unique or maybe special. But that one, I was not able to get around.
Yeah.
And then most often these decks are built obviously based on a specific tribe, but sometimes those tribes lack answers to specific board states. So obviously in elves, you have the benefit of having creatures like Reclamation Sage, because it comes in, it's an elf, it can destroy an artifact or enchantment. There are just some tribes that don't deal with answers very well. I mean, goblins probably aren't going to be removing enchantments.
No, mostly just artifacts, and that's about it. And they do have the ability, I guess, to remove creatures just by dealing damage. But you're right. When it comes to enchantments, they've got nothing. They at least have the ability to either swing or ping someone to death. But, kind of cool, in Kaldheim, we did get a new zombie, Jarl of the Forsaken, that does help do removal stuff. So, it looks like Wizards is starting to print a few more of these creatures that might be auto-includes in your tribal decks, because they do have this ability to also help take some problem permanents out that would be problems for your creatures.
Problems for your creatures.
Get rid of them.
Let me keep them. Let me keep them.
I'm taking them.
So, popular tribal cards that we have played, we have seen played, we know are sound to be played in tribal decks.
Yes.
So the one that I wanted to mention first is a card that gives you card draw, which is Vanquisher's Banner. So I run Vanquisher's Banner in my Sigarda Humans deck. It is an artifact that costs 5. It's just colorless. And it says, as it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of that chosen type get +1/+1. And whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So the nice thing is that my Sigarda tribal deck, my human tribal deck, has an average CMC of 3. So sometimes you can play 2 or 3 creatures in a turn and just constantly replace your hand. But I think I'm running Vanquisher's Banner in a few decks. And to be honest, until we wrote this, I did not realize that Vanquisher's Banner was up past the $10 mark, because this is one of those cards when you open it at the pre-release, you're like, this card's like 50 cents. I don't want this.
Yeah.
But as we've played more and more Commander since at least Ixalan has come out, these are those cards where it's like, buy them now, because this will be a popular card, because everybody loves tribal.
For sure. And this is played in any color that you want to. It's a colorless artifact, so you could play it in mono white warriors, and you have card draw.
But you're probably not going to play it in mono blue zombie wizards that already have card draw.
You'd rather just play a wizard there. Yeah, you're right. So the one card that I really like, and maybe I have an infatuation to this card just because it was in standard when I first started playing, is Metallic Mimic. So Metallic Mimic is a 2 mana artifact creature, 2/1. This is when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and then creatures of the chosen type, when they enter the battlefield, they enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. So I played this in Zombies in Standard. So this was the beginning of Amonkhet Standard. And Metallic Mimic was a huge card to have. Fill that 2-drop, get it out early, make all of your zombies harder to kill. Making a Lord go from a 2/2 to a 3/3 is absolutely huge. Not a lot of people run Lightning Bolt in EDH or in
EDH rack.
In EDH rack.
I don't think the Lightning Bolt test is a very reliable standard anymore.
Definitely not in Commander. In Modern, maybe, but definitely not in Commander.
Yeah, I'd be like, Lightning Bolt away. You've only got one copy.
Go for it.
Take out this Metallic Mimic. I'll reanimate it somehow.
Somehow I probably will, because it's that good of a card.
I'm going to bring it back. Another card that I thought was a trade evener for so long, sitting in my binder, was Herald's Horn.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this card was a buck. I really did. And so Herald's Horn is an artifact that costs 3 generic mana. That says when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 generic less to cast. And at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So you've also got card advantage in your tribal deck, as well as a reduction. It makes me think a lot of these creature spells cost less to cast, just make me think of like goblins, because there's so many goblins. So your goblins cost less.
True.
I mean, there's I think there's probably one for most tribes. I mean, I know Dragon Speaker Shaman makes dragons cost, I think, 2 less.
Yeah.
But Herald's Horn fits everyone.
That's right.
Again, colorless.
Yeah, and another card that's just like it, Urza's Incubator. It does kind of the same cost reduction thing, but it does it by 2 generic instead. But you don't get that scrying ability. Well, I guess it's not really scrying ability, but you don't get that card advantage from Urza's Incubator for the same mana cost. So if you're not playing a high converted mana cost tribe like like dragons.
Zombies don't cost that much.
Zombies cost 3 mana. That's it. If you're paying more than 3, you're playing Grim Grand, and that's it. Okay. But yeah, so if you're not playing a high converted mana cost tribe, you probably don't want to play Urza's Incubator. You're going to want to go for your Herald's Horn instead.
Right. So let's talk about some of our favorite tribes and actually our tribal decks.
Yeah.
So when we were going through this, I actually saw that I have 7 tribal decks, and it wasn't just that I guess I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just drawn to playing tribal decks. So I've got a Sigarda Humans tribal, Omnath, Locus of Rage. It's landfall, but there's still a lot of elemental synergies. I have Sethron, Hurloon General, which is Minotaur, Slimefoot Saprolings, which I've taken apart, Tulsimer Friend to Wolves, which also has been taken apart. That was Wolves. Kaza Royal Chaser Wizards. And then I also have Vito Thorn of the Duskrows, which is Vampires. And I used to run Edgar Markov.
That's right.
And I took that apart as well. I have too many decks, clearly.
No, not enough. Still not enough.
Not enough.
Need one for every tribe.
And then you can go into I'm running Planeswalker tribal. But it's not necessarily tribal, but everybody says it is. I had Estrid Enchantment tribal.
Yeah, it's a theme.
It's a theme. Not tribal.
Yeah, tribe does not equal theme, but it can in your vocabulary if you so choose. So some of the tribal decks that I play, I have a Blue-Black Zombies deck. It's gone through a few revisions, but it's still a Blue-Black Zombies deck. Helmed by, now it's Sakashima of 1,000 Faces and Tormod. Probably my favorite tribal deck. One of the first decks that I actually built kind of on my own.
And that used to be the Scarab God, right?
Used to be the Scarab God, so it used
Was
to
it
have...
anyone else before that?
It might have been Giza and Geralf before that. But I know I tried doing it a mono black style before, but I decided adding blue was just really, really helpful. The clone effects are really the big
things
that I
running
love.
Rooftop Storm?
Of course.
I mean, you have to run Rooftop Storm.
Zombies
that's a
cost
requirement.
0. Yes, please. I have my Morophon Everything tribal deck, which is not tribal according to EDH Rec. But it uses Morophon and Blink effects in order to cast things for free, no matter what tribe they are, and then use special tribal synergies with cards like Arcane Adaptation to try to take advantage of some of those things. I used to have my Goblins deck with Krenko, and then technically my Phylath deck is a plants deck. Even though Chameleon Colossus, a changeling, is my best plant in the deck, it is technically a plant deck. It does play other plants in the deck. So,
would you say it's a plant? Like a spy?
Yeah, no, I planted Chameleon Colossus in there for sure.
I asked Coyle when we were playing, it was streaming either last week or 2 weeks ago. I asked, because he was drawing a plant token, I was like, can you draw a plant as in this person's a plant as part of the plan? He's like, I don't know how to draw that.
I don't know how to do it. It's a scene that you have to draw at that point.
If you're a good artist and you listen to our show, can you draw us a plant as in the person's a plant as part of the scheme?
Yeah.
We would like to see how you...
I could have just drawn a mole.
You should have just drawn a
Oh
mole.
my goodness.
Did you ever watch that show, The Mole? Where you there was a team of people and you had to figure out who was the mole.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
I didn't I've watched episodes, not like a season.
I think I watched I think there was a Celebrity Mole. I think that's one that I watched. I don't remember who it was, but man, that show was one of those shows where it didn't matter what happened. If you didn't watch the show, there were clues in every episode, and the mole would know something, but they had to not give it away. Mm-hmm. And just inherently knowing it, you might give it away. Mm-hmm. But there was something where it was like in the first hallway, in the first episode, if you walked down the hall, you saw that in each photo, it was a city, and it was the city that the person was born in, and it was and I was like, this show's so ridiculous.
No one remembers this.
No one
Thanks.
Right, and you had like notepads. Yeah, I digress. But a plant.
Yeah, no, I play plants.
Full circle here.
We got plants.
You got plants. Your everything tribal deck with Morophon, though, you might be making it into an everything deck, right? You could say what it is every week if you really wanted to.
Yeah, so I'm turning my Morophon deck into a Changeling deck, which is pretty great. Looking at all the synergies, I'm actually able to play. It's about 30 Changelings that are going to be legal after Kaldheim releases. Kaldheim brought like 8 or 10 Changelings to the table, mostly in blue and green, which is fine because we want green for ramp anyways. But yeah, so I'm going to be able to play some of the best lords or just, creatures that care about creature types from all the different types. So like, for instance, I'm playing Atla Palani because all of my changelings are also eggs that would take advantage of Atla's ability to be able to grab free creatures. I'm playing Goblin King to give all of my changelings Mountain Walk, Elvish Champion to get all of my changelings Forest Walk, Master of the Pearl Trident in order to give all of my changelings Island Walk, and all these other cool effects, Rin and Ciri. But even outside of creatures, I get to play like Dragon's Horde. And so every time I cast a changeling, I get gold counters put on Dragon's Horde, and I get to draw cards. And Notorious Throng to take an extra turn because changelings count as thieves. So it should be a lot of fun. I did have trouble not putting cards in the deck. Like I want 100 cards and then add 50 lands after that and have a 150 card commander deck, but you're not allowed to do that.
Nope.
So it's been difficult for me to cut cards and put ramp in instead of these creatures, which we already talked about as a downside to tribal. Sometimes you build too hard into the tribal.
Sometimes your tribe doesn't have answers. And the other week on stream, I played Southron Hurler in general. And unfortunately, in Black-Red, you lack card draw. I guess I don't run a ton of Reanimate, but I don't have effects that get around being milled.
Right.
And I was getting milled every turn, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
But speaking of Southron, the reason I was so excited to play it again recently is because it's the Year of the Ox, and for the Asia Pacific region, they're actually getting a special promo art of Sethron, and it comes with like a really cool Minotaur token as well. So I would really like to get a copy of that for my Sethron deck. It'll be the first foreign language card that I think that I play with.
Okay.
But I just have a thing for foils and promos, so
it's
go
pretty
for
cool.
It. It's a really cool.
Are you gonna have Sethron like in the same sleeve in English too, just in case people have?
I should. I do have my Noyandar deck because I have an altar and then a foil, and I just put 2 of them inside of one clear sleeve, and I flip it to each side. I'm really excited. Cool. Tribal Minotaurs is a lot of fun, and we started. And if you're looking for an affordable tribal deck, go with Tribal Minotaurs. I think my entire deck is like $200 some bucks, and that's like. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it's like pretty tuned for what you can do.
It's super on definition for when we were talking about tribes being affordable, swing to win, commit to the board, and
and hope for the best.
Yeah.
We're in Rakdos. We're hoping for the best.
You're hoping for destruction.
We are. You got a lot of really cool cards recently as well. Morag that came out that's giving you extra combats. And then a lot of the Minotaurs from Neheb. Every version of Neheb is just really good for a Minotaur deck. So if you're looking for a really cool tribal deck, you can find my list on my Archidect, which is on my link. And I don't know if I've ever said this before, but if you go to my Twitter page, I have a link tree, and all of my decks are listed there. So that one's a lot of fun. And then Slimefoot, I think, is one of those underrated decks. It just, if you let too many Saprolings get on the board, you're pretty resilient in a board wipe because Slimefoot sees all of those.
Yep.
And so your life total pretty much can stay the same where everybody else's goes down. And there's too many infinite combos in it. I had to shut it down. I had to shut it down, folks.
See, that's for that same reason. I actually it wasn't because of infinite combos, but just because of how good the deck was, I actually took apart my Reese the Redeemed deck. So that was green-white elves, and it made so many elves every single turn. And when I had an Aura Shards out, then everything was also destroyed.
And that game was at your house in your basement. And it was terrible.
And there was one person in the pod literally playing an Artifacts Matters deck. And it's like, you no longer are allowed to have permanents. And I am a little sorry.
Including their artifact lands.
I had hit something.
You're a monster.
Yeah, it is a May effect, by the way, on Aura Shards. I didn't realize that at the time, but it is a May effect.
So, Coyle, you have a couple of cards that you really liked that you want to talk about that really fit well into all
Yes.
tribal decks.
So these are particular shapeshifter cards that are really like Chameleon Colossus.
Into most decks.
As long as they fit the color identity.
The color identity.
Yeah. So in my Phylath deck, I play Chameleon Colossus as the strongest plant that exists in plant tribal. So you have this. So Phylath's ability allows you every time a land comes in to put 4+1/+1 counters on a plant that you control. And Chameleon Colossus, you get to play it in green. You also have like Torn Mauler in red that you can play, but Torn Mauler is already doing enough job putting +1/+1 counters on itself. So Chameleon Colossus is a 4 converted mana cost, 4/4 shapeshifter that has protection from black, which is a nice bonus, but not really why we care. It also has the ability to pay for 2 green, and Chameleon Colossus gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is its power. And after you throw a bunch of +1/+1 counters on Chameleon Colossus with Phylath's ability and then double its power, it just ends up being the biggest thing on the planet. And so that's why I really like playing Chameleon Colossus in my Phylath deck, but Chameleon Colossus could also be the most powerful human they ever printed. It's not the most powerful dragon they ever printed, but it could be the most powerful Kithkin they ever printed. You should play more Chameleon Colossus.
You should. We got some new cards actually in Kaldheim that really care about tribal cards. So Maskwood Nexus, creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. And it has pay 3, tap it, and create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. That fits all of our tribal decks.
Yeah, it sure does. Now you do have to... there's a little caveat. If you're playing a cat tribal deck and you're playing the Ikoria cat with Mutate, you do not want to play this card because it will turn all of your creatures into humans.
Good call.
Which are unmutatable.
Good looking out. Good looking out.
But the second half of this card to make changelings, we've seen this a little bit already in a Modern Horizons card called Birthing Boughs, which I really like to play. It's a 3-mana artifact. You pay 4 and tap it, and you get a 2/2 shapeshifter token. Obviously, this new Maskwood Nexus is a much better version of Birthing Boughs. It does cost 1 more mana. Why not play both?
The answer is play both.
It's always play both.
It's always play both.
Crunchy taco and soft shell taco. Please and thank you.
Never soft shell.
Well, that's the whole point of why not both. That's where that came from.
So you're talking, what's that thing called where it's the crunchy taco wrapped in a soft shell with the beans on it? Is that called a double decker? Those are good.
Those are good.
I don't know the last time I ever ordered one of those. I ordered chalupas at Taco Bell.
Okay. I'm just talking about the taco shell commercial where the little girl says, why not both?
That's a good GIF. GIF.
I say GIF.
Coyle says GIF. That's the peanut butter brand.
That's also the way that the creator of the file extension says you're supposed to pronounce it, but
And then one other new card that I'm very excited to play this card is Pyre of Heroes. So you can pay 2. It's an artifact that costs 2 and has pay 2, tap it, sack a creature, search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature, and has CMC equal to 1 plus that creature's CMC. Put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Do this only at sorcery speed. I, would like to get a 3 or a 4 mana, or I guess a 5 mana for just sacking it. And it works with all my creatures. It can grab any of my creatures at the next up CMC.
it's absolutely huge.
In my humans deck, a lot of humans have something on it. It's them on a stick. I have Oblivion Ring on a stick.
Mm-hmm.
I think at 3 CMC multiple times. Yeah. Give it to me all day.
Maybe this isn't so great in a dragons deck or something. Maybe you don't want to sacrifice your dragons, but in humans, in zombies, in a lot of these low to the ground tribes, you can sacrifice your tokens.
Now, can you make yourself all the way up to the dragon from like a dragon hatchling?
Is there something there's got to be a dragon that's 8 CMC, right?
There's got to be. So we've got 5, 3, 4, 6, 7. 7. I don't see any at 8. I see lots of 7s.
You might not actually be able to pyre into the Dragon.
Can you not? That's another 7. Darigaz is 7. Why is everyone 7? What's more fun?
More fun is 7.
Oh, crap. Is there a changeling that's at 8? Now I want to know. I'm going to Scryfall and I am going to look up... Wait, okay, so go to Scryfall.
Okay.
Look up the creature type dragon, and then look up CMC equals 8.
Okay.
Or 8. No, it has to be 8.
It has to be 8.
It has to be 8. Okay, so We're going to look up the creature type, drag. It can be any. It doesn't matter because you don't have to
matter.
specify any of that. And then the CMC. I hope it's a really bad one too. As long as I mean, if it exists, you're.
Oh, there's a lot.
There's a lot of
all the Elder Dragons are 8 CMC.
Scourge of Courageous.
Bogard and Hellkite's are really
Oh,
good.
Utavara
Also
Hellkite. You're
really
already
good.
running that. Okay. Yeah, we can get. But Dragon Hatchling, does that cost 2 or 3? Because you got to get one at 4. And but you've got changelings there.
You should go from an egg token. 0
To 1?
CMC egg token.
Is there a dragon that costs 1 CMC? There's got to be a changeling that costs
that does. There definitely is.
Okay, so I need someone to Pyre of Heroes their way from a token all the. Well, wait, is there a dragon token?
There are dragon tokens.
Yeah, so you get the dragon token, the dragon hatchling or whatever that and then all the way up to the Dragon. And send it to us, the chain. I want to know. I want to know what that egg evolved into.
Yeah, how many turns did it take? Did you do it all in 1 turn? Impressive.
I guess you could if you can have a way to untap Pyre of Heroes and chain yourself up to the Dragon. Well, wait.
Do you
but
run
the Dragon needs to be in your deck. Scion of the Dragon is your commander then, because you need to be able to chain into it. So you can't have the Dragon as your commander.
No, you can't do that.
No.
Unless someone shuffles it back into your library for you.
But Scion can at least get you.
Everything into your graveyard.
You turn Scion into the dragon and then you sack it, which turns it into the egg.
You could.
It's a whole thing.
Does it copy? It does copy the converted mana cost because it becomes a copy of the card, right? Scion of the Dragon. It's not like a 5 CMC version of the card. I don't play Scion of the Dragon. I don't know the answer to that question.
Scion says it becomes a copy of the card till end of turn.
Oh, so it does retain the converted mana cost of the card then. So you can do it.
All right, someone please make that happen. I would like to see you chain all the way up. Cool, this was fun talking about tribal decks. And until we did this, I didn't realize how many tribal decks I actually owned. Well, that's the end of our show this week. We want to thank you all for listening. If you want to contact us, you can find our podcast online at theguardianprojectpodcast.com. You can find our social media on Twitter at GuardianPod and our gameplay videos on YouTube at youtube.com/theguardianproject. We're also on Instagram. We're Guardian Pod on Instagram as well. We're going to add that to our show notes. We start saying it because we started using our Instagram account. So if you're on Instagram, you might see a photo every once in a while because that's what you do on there.
It's typically
photos.
That's what I've heard. The young generation.
The youngins say it's for the photos. You can find me on Twitter at ATFlurry.
And you can find me on Twitter at WormCoilEngine. And of course, we always want to give a special shout out and a thanks to our producer, Ryan Nichols. Thank you very much. And also Chris Wolf, who handles all of our graphic design. Thank you very much. You just created a cool image for some Patreon exclusive content that we're going to release.
Shirei Deck Tech will be out this week. So if you're listening to this and you're a patron, it's probably already out.
Right. And if you're not a patron and you want to check it out, go on over to patreon.com/theguardianproject and donate for any dollar amount.
Any dollar amount. And thank you to everybody who has become a patron and upped their subscription. We appreciate that so much. We'll be back. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.